Panels, podcasts, guest interviews, video shows, author readings. What's an author to do? Welcome to the Author to Writing Conference 2023, sponsored by Fictionary Story Editing Software for Writers. I'm going to be with you for the next hour, talking about how authors should prepare for video audio podcasts. And we'll be discussing some tips and tricks, and as well as advice on how to host your own if you so desire. Anyway, so first up is tips and tricks for being a guest. Now, I have lots of notes here, so I'm going to be referring to them because there's no way I'm memorizing an hour of this stuff because I'm too old. Okay, so how to find a guest appearance. Now, you'd love to be a guest on a video show, but you have no clue where to find them. The easiest way, just to search a network. Just do a YouTube search for interview shows. Do a Google search for interview shows. I mean, and as well as don't neglect the social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter, because a lot of authors um, do podcasts as well, like I do, and we post for guests on in groups and on Twitter and on Instagram and various other things like that. And so you can find shows that way as well. So just go out there, search a network, and make a list. This is what you want to do. You want to make a list, and I'll tell you what to do with that list in a minute. You can also ask authors you know to recommend shows they've been on. If you know authors who've been guests on shows, just ask them, or just ping a social media post. I'm looking for shows to be on. Are there any authors out there who can recommend some things that I can look into? Excellent way to find stuff. Um, my recommendation would be, especially if if you're an indie author, would be the Go Indie Now network. They have tons of shows. They're always looking for guests. They have a Facebook sorry, group, the Go Indie Now think tank, where the signups get posted. And if you're an indie author, that's definitely a good resource. Another show I like is Spilling Ink. They do guests from all sorts of traditional and indie. So that's another one that's a good that I'd recommend. So you want to once you find these shows and you make your list, you want to make sure you go and you check out episodes of these shows, because they may sound good in theory, but they may not be quite the right fit for you. Because oh well, somebody might recommend, oh, this is a fantasy show. I love being on the fantasy show. You go over there and yeah, they interview fantasy authors, all right, but most of the fantasy authors they've interviewed are, say, fantasy romance authors, and you write grimdark. That's not going to be a good fit for you. So you want to go and check out the episodes, and also checking out the episodes gives you a good idea of how the host interacts with the guests. And maybe you don't think you're going to vibe very well with the host. I mean, maybe they're not a bad host. Maybe you just don't like their style. Maybe you just don't like the interview questions they do, whatever. So it's a good policy to check out the episodes before you apply for any show. Okay, so and now you've made your list, you've whittled it down, you've got all the ones you want to apply to. So how do you apply? How do you find their contact information? Most shows, whether they're on YouTube or other platforms, they generally have some way to contact or a sign up form. Check that first. If they have a sign up form, great, you're all set. You just go in the sign up form and you follow the rules. If you don't see a contact, you don't see any information on how to sign up or whatever, they generally have some kind of social media contact. So just give them a little DM, a little polite DM saying, I saw your show, was wondering if you were accepting guests, love to be on it. How would I apply? And generally they'll just reply back. They'll give you the information. Or they'll say, oh, no, we're not taking guests at this point. But maybe later we'll be open, something like that. And if they do give you a no, like we're closed for guests, don't push it. Just say, okay, thank you. I'll check back later, or something similar like that, because you don't want to piss off the host. Never piss off the host. That is the number one rule. Okay, so you found their contact form, you're ready to go. What do you do? First of all, you check out their contact form, see what you're going to need to give them, because some people need things. They want book covers, they want this, they want that. Usually it's just a name or an email and a date. So, which is good. But if they have guidelines, make sure you read them. Make sure you read them carefully. Make sure you follow them. Okay. This is the best policy. Always follow the guidelines. When anything you're doing as an author, always follow the guidelines. Okay. So you filled out the sign up form. You've got your date. You've been contacted. Everything's set to go. Now, what do you do next? And now we've given you the etiquette of do's and don'ts of how to be a guest. Okay, the first thing you do, and the most important thing you do, is mark the event on your calendar, whether it's in your phone, on Google, on some other calendar, whether it's in a paper calendar. You mark it with a red pen in very big bold letters if it's in a paper calendar. You want to make sure, and you set reminders, even if you have to set 10 reminders throughout an entire month. You make sure that you know that that's the date you have to show up and you're ready to show up. Okay. Because this is the thing you don't want to do to a host. You do not want to ghost the host. Okay. Because you don't want to ghost the host, because the host does not want to sit there staring in a blank wall waiting for the guest to show up. Believe me, I've been there, done that, didn't like it a bit. So, yeah, make sure that you're ready to go. You've got your reminders. And, maybe you will have to cancel for some reason. We will get to that later on in the presentation. But make sure those reminders are set and you know when that date is and that you're ready to go. Okay, so also prepare to talk. Okay. Now, that may sound like a rather obvious point, but I've had a lot of guests that answer my questions in one sentence answers. That's not enough information, okay? You have to expound on the subject. Hosts like authors that ramble, okay? We love it when our guests talk and say stuff and just go on and on. I mean, not too far. You don't want to go off topic on tangents or talk about the pink bonbons you had for lunch or something like that. But you really need to talk. And, you know, you never know what the conversation will lead into when you do that as well. That's the best thing about interviews and panels and things. So don't be afraid to talk. Don't be afraid to ramble. I've had several guests apologize. I tend to ramble, and I always tell them, yes, please, please ramble. We like that. It makes the host job so much easier when the guests are chatty. So remember, and don't be afraid to be a little goofy and a little and be natural. Be yourself. Goofy is good. Rambling is good. Remember that. Okay, and you want to arrive ahead of the scheduled start time when you're a guest. Always arrive. 10 to 15 minutes is a good time to arrive, unless the host gives you a specific time when they want you to arrive. Maybe they'll say you arrive 30 minutes before or 20 minutes before. I mean, again, listen to the guidelines, listen to the host. Okay, so and we do this for a reason. We want you to settle in, shed the nerves, do the tech checks, because those techie issues, I think we've had a few of them in this conference. So yeah, you want to come in ahead of schedule and settle in. And again, with the tech, you want to check it. You can check it beforehand, like make sure your microphone isn't doing feedback. If you haven't been on, say, like the thing is on Zoom, you have a Zoom account, you want to go in and check, make sure your Zoom is updated, things like this. So you want to do your tech check in the 10 minutes before the show starts as well, because you never know. Tech issues can pop up anytime. So and it never hurts to have a backup thing. Like I know some people have come in on their laptops wouldn't work, and then they switched over to their phones and they worked fine. So you never know what will work and what won't. So, and when you're as a guest, you want to have uh, a copy of your book ready to hold up on camera if you're doing video stuff. If you're doing audio stuff, you don't have to worry about that. But if you're doing a video thing, you want a copy of your book if you have one to hold up on camera and say, "Look, isn't this a pretty cover?" So, and you will have an opportunity to do that usually during the intro or the outro. So be sure to have a copy. I mean, and if you forget, it's not a big deal, but it's always a nice little addition. So, and be prepared to answer audience questions, as we will do so at the end of this presentation. Um, and for live feeds, especially, and if you're doing YouTube premieres, to show up to those. If you're a guest and the host is telling you they're going to premiere the show up to them just in case people show up to watch it, and you can answer their questions or say hi or chat or whatever. I know sometimes nobody shows up to those premieres, and it can be a bit boring, but you know, do your writing while you're just waiting in case guests show up. So, yeah, be prepared to answer audience questions, and this also helps if you check out the episodes, like I suggested. You can see what kind of questions the audience usually has in those live feeds if you check out previous episodes. So you can actually be prepared for audience questions by doing your homework. Okay, so and when you're communicating with your host, answer the emails promptly. Don't let him or her wait for, or them wait for 2, 3, 4 days. Try and get them answered the same day or the day after. Okay, now this one comes up a lot too, is what to do about nerves. A lot of guests I've had have been first time guests or new authors, and they have been very nervous, which is another reason why the 10-minute to 15-minute before the start time helps, because a nice little friendly conversation with the host can settle nerves. But just remember that you need to treat these panels and interviews like a friendly conversation. The hosts aren't out to get you. No, we're not out to get you. And remember, the hosts also don't know you either. So they have some nerves on their side as well, because I never know what to expect. And no host does when guest comes on the show. I mean, we could have a guest that's just wonderful and we love talking to them, and another one where we just have to yank the answers out of them. So don't be nervous, because the host is kind of nervous too. And if you are a little nervous about starting, you don't know, you might want to look into doing shorter interview shows. Like I do one that's 15, 20 minutes. A lot of shows do like around 30-minute shows. There's a lot of those out there. So you might want to start with a smaller one like that, kind of ease into the bigger hour ones and the panels. But panels can sometimes help too if you're nervous, because you're actually on there with other people. And so you can sort of fade into the background a little bit on panels sometimes, and let the more boisterous people talk. I mean, you can have your say, of course, but you don't necessarily have to be on all the time when you're on a panel. So you might also want to look into, maybe if you want to try a panel first as well. So now, as you've just seen my ramblings so far, sometimes you stumble over words and you make a mistake. So don't be embarrassed about it. Everybody does it. We all have seen it on the live feeds. And just make a little quick oopsie, I'm sorry, and or make a little joke, or just don't fuss about it. Don't make a big deal about it. Just keep going forward. And another one I've noticed is don't stream from a noisy environment if you can help it, because that's very distracting. It's hard for people to hear your answers and what. So you want a relatively quiet background. Now, of course, there may be interruptions. And of course, pet sightings are always welcome on live feeds and recorded feeds. So, don't fuss too much if the pet wanders in and wants to be on camera because everybody loves the pet sightings. Anyway, but don't be afraid to use the mute button too if you do have an unexpected noise in the background or something's going on and you're not, like especially in a panel, if you're not on camera and someone else is talking and there's noise in your feed, just hit that mute button, and because that's polite and you don't want to interrupt the other person who's talking. So, yeah, and just don't forget to unmute yourself, as we have all done. So, do try and keep the noise down because I've had a few guests that have come to me. I had a guest that did an interview from an airport, couple of cafe things and stuff. So don't try not to do live interviews, especially from a noisy environment. And this one happens from time to time, as we've seen in the critique panel today. The internet dropped with poor Emma as she handled it like a trooper. Don't panic if that happens. Just pop in, pop out, try and fix the problem. The host will handle it. Even if you're on a one-on-one interview and your internet drops or you're having a problem, the host, an experienced host, will handle it. They'll fill in for you. They'll wait till the tech is problems fixed or you can come back in and out, and that's the problem. So just concentrate on getting the problem fixed. Don't panic. That happens all the time. Okay, and this one happens not as often, in fact, very rarely, but I have seen it happen. If the host drops out, don't panic. Okay, take over the show. All right. If your host feed drops out and you're there all by yourself, take over the show. Now, pay attention to your emails or your comments or the comment section, your private chats or whatever you're streaming from, in case the host has information for you, because, I mean, so you know what's going on. But just take over the show. Do a reading from your book, especially if you have that copy that you've been shown. Read something from it. Keep chatting about your life. Chat about your upcoming works in progress. Chat about your book that just launched or whatever. Just take over the show until the host pops back in. Okay, so that's etiquette do's and don'ts. Now we're going to go into what to do if you have to cancel the show. Okay, so you've marked the event on your calendar, and there's no way you're going to forget about it. But 2 days out, disaster strikes, and you can't make it. Or you accidentally double booked it, or your nap went too long and you overslept. And or one out of 1,000 things life can throw at you and something happens and yep, you've got to cancel that appearance. So again, don't panic. Things happen. Hosts realize that even last minute cancellations, we are prepared for it. Now, saying that, don't ghost the host again. Let them know. Let them know as soon as possible. Because if you can't have to cancel the show, a host might be able to do a replacement for you. So give them enough time to have that option if you can. Now, sometimes you have to cancel last minute. I've had a few guests that have done that. They've been very apologetic about it, but they've had an emergency and they had to cancel last minute. So if you do, don't worry too much about that. We'll get to how you do that in a minute. So just don't leave your host hanging as to where you are. Never do that. So again, cancel as soon as possible. And even if you only suspect you might have to cancel, like something is on the horizon and you're thinking, uh-oh, this might interfere, contact the host and let them know there's a possibility that you might have to cancel the appearance. And the host may suggest, well, why don't we reschedule then? And that, because he can maybe switch a guest or get a new guest for your spot and put you in another spot. So let the host know what's going on. Or he may suggest, well, we'll wing it, and if you have to cancel, that's okay too. So just let the host know. Anyway, and a good policy is to save the scheduling email in case, like some shows do it through calendar apps. So if you do have to cancel, you may have to use that calendar app canceling link. So save your scheduling email that you received from the host or the whatever the host used. So and when you do have to cancel, make sure you apologize. That should be pretty obvious. And give a quick explanation too, but don't go on to a long, rambly, in-depth detail of your life. Nobody wants to hear about that. I'm sorry. I mean, we're sympathetic, but you don't have to give them a long explanation. And ask them when you are canceling if you can reschedule, because you might be able to reschedule right then, and they may say, "Well, we'll get back to you." Anyway, and if rescheduling is a possibility, um, make sure you follow through on it. Like they may say, "Well, get back to me when," like, say if your cancellation is going to be extended, like you don't know when you can reschedule, um, and then you find out later, get back to them. Don't leave them hanging because they're not going to chase you. Okay, hosts are not going to chase you down to get a rescheduling guest appearance. So you're going to have to do the chasing. So remember, if you have to follow up on a rescheduling of a canceled guest appearance, follow up. Okay, so now what happens if you actually miss a guest appearance? You get caught in traffic, you have a last minute emergency, and you forget to cancel because you're panicked on the last minute emergency. Your internet goes out, your power goes out, takes the internet with it. You cannot contact the hosts to cancel. Um, Sometimes, oh, you don't wake up from that nap and you oversleep way past the date, and you are in fact a no-show. That has happened to everyone or most everyone. So message the host as soon as possible. Apologize profusely. Explain what happened, what the situation was, and then you can ask to reschedule. And but keep in mind the host may say no. Now, it's unlikely they will say no. They most likely will understand and give you a second chance and reschedule. Do not screw up the second chance. You will not get a third. Okay, so that's basically how you prepare to be a guest on a show. So now we are going to go on how to host your own video show. So you've been a guest, you like being a guest, and now you decide, well, I'm going to try this, see what happens. So, first thing you're going to need is a hosting platform. Now, I use StreamYard. A lot of people use StreamYard. I find it to be the easiest thing to use. It's there is a free version of it, so you don't have to pay for it. Free version does not come with a lot of bells and whistles, but it's good for basic stuff, and it's a good to test out whether you actually want to be a host and you want to do this. Zoom is also another option. Again, it has a free thing, but it has a free thing. It's a 40-minute time limit on the amount of show you can use with the free one, I believe. So all these platforms have free and paid versions. I mean, most of them do. Um, and so, but the free versions always have their limits. So be sure to check it out and see which one you like best. You can also stream directly from YouTube. I don't think that's a good option. I've never tried it, but I have heard things about YouTube, so I don't know. And you can stream from Facebook. Again, I have tried that from Facebook, didn't like it. I think StreamYard is the best option, but I might be biased on that. You can also use Twitch. I do not like Twitch for running live streams simply because Twitch puts ads in the live streams. And as I've never run a live stream on Twitch, but as a viewer of a Twitch live stream, seeing those ads is annoying as anything, and I ruins the viewer experience. So I wouldn't recommend Twitch either. But again, if you've got the paid or the I don't know exactly how you get up to the paid tiers in Twitch, but if you got that, you can get rid of the ads. So, I mean, it does have its things, but it's really up to you as to what your preference is in a hosting platform. Now, what kind of equipment do you use? Now, you don't need expensive equipment to start hosting your own video show. You can start with a simple webcam. And I would recommend, though, an external mic, like the headset thing I'm wearing, simply because if you're going to use a laptop or even a desktop mic, they don't always pick up if you move around. A lot of them are very bad with that because I've had guests where they've shifted and moved and some of their voice dropped out a little bit. So you really kind of want some kind of an external mic. I mean, a simple headset thing like this, which isn't very expensive, works fine, and a simple webcam. That's really all you need. Now, for lighting, I mean, you can get a ring light or one of the, but frankly, all I use is a lamp that I've put behind the computer. That's what you want. You need lighting behind the computer. I learned this tip from a webinar. You need lighting behind the computer to light properly. So put your extra lights behind your computer, behind where your face is. So it's coming into your face. So that's basically all the equipment that you need. Um, other than a nice background, you want to have a nice background, so you don't want anything too cluttered. I mean, currently my background's a little off because I had to adjust my I got a new monitor and my webcam had to be adjusted, so it kind of cut the skulls off on my tapestry, so I have to readjust that. But you want a nice clean background, a simple webcam and a simple external microphone will do nicely to start. And of course, you want a good, strong internet connection. A wired in internet connection works best, but if you have a nice, strong Wi-Fi signal, then you can get away with that as well. Okay, so now what? Now we go into live streaming versus recording. Which one do you do? Now, honestly, they both have their pros and cons. I prefer live streaming because it's just less work. You just set the thing up, you come on, you do your live stream, blah, 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 and it's over. Yeah, you can't really add any bells and whistles with the live stream. I mean, you can a little bit after the fact, but it's more or less it is you come, you do, you go. So if you want something quick and easy, live streaming is probably the way to go. If you want a little more bells and whistles, you want a little more freedom to edit and to put in the little fancinesses in your videos, then you'll want to do a recording. And if you want to make them a little, you want to take out the mistakes or the flubs or and polish them up a little bit, you want to do a recording. And also with recording, if you do get cancellations, recording's a lot easier to handle because you're not stuck with having to go into the live stream and remove the live stream, remove all the social media posts that you did for the live stream. And yeah, so with recording, your cancellations are easier to handle. With live streaming, it's it's no muss, no fuss. Okay, so but even with the recording, you still have the uploading and the prep to do. And of course, you must have your prep. You have to have your YouTube thumbnails, even with live streaming or recordings. You have to have those YouTube thumbnails. And Canva's the way to go for those YouTube thumbnails. And yeah, so and you can also with the recording, you can also add extra bits like the outros, and the intros for the recordings too. So there are your options for live streams versus recording. It really is a personal preference, I think, with those two, just whichever one you find the easiest to do. And you can mix and match too, because I do that. I do my shows live stream, but I do a lot of my author advice videos recording. So, and the next one is something I find that authors really tend to neglect a lot. And this is author readings. Now, we don't do this enough. And I'm guilty of this too. We don't sit down and do live stream readings from our books or live stream recordings of our books. And we should, because it's a very good way to get people to get intrigued by your book. And there are some tips and tricks to doing it well, though. So you have to the best pro- the best policy is to have a paperback to read from. Now, you may not always have this option because, maybe your book isn't in paperback, maybe it's ebook, maybe you don't have a paperback, but the best policy is paperback. That way you can actually show the paperback on screen and you and so that helps as well. So you want to practice reading before you do the recording or before you do the live stream. So you know how long it's going to be approximately. You know whether or not there are words that are going to trip you up because sometimes we write words and we think we know how to pronounce them when we're writing them, and then we're reading them and going, "Oh my gosh, how the heck do you pronounce that word? I got to go look that up on Google." And so you really need to practice. And if there's something you're fumbling over, inevitably you're going to fumble over that in the live reading, I'm telling you, or the recording. But yeah, the more you practice, the less fumbling you will do. So, and as I said, yeah, you stumble over words. Now, if you're doing the live recording and you stumble over words, just fix the word stumble to what is correct if you can. If you can't, just ignore it and go on. And then just fix it and then just keep reading. So, because everybody stumbles. Every author stumbles unless they're Neil Gaiman or something. I don't know. I don't think that man stumbles when he reads, but anyway. Um, so just don't worry about it. Like you said, just keep reading until you get to the end of the book. Have a glass of water handy for a dry throat, especially me, because doing these long things, my throat inevitably goes dry. And it also helps to give nice little pauses in the reading. So that's just why you practice. So you can find those pauses where you can have a little sip of water. And and so that's another reason for practicing. Now, when you're reading your book, you want to look up from the paper and you or the paperback or the screen or the printout that you're reading from, because nobody wants to see this, the top of your head for the entire show. Okay? You want to look up you so this is again why you practice reading, so you know where you can look up, and you get used to looking up and you can find your place in the book when you look back down, because you don't want to look up and then you're like, what was I reading? So, but you do want to look up from time to time into the camera so people can see your face. And you want to put some character in the book when you're reading it. You want to use inflections. You want to, like, if there's a place where someone raises their voice, raise your voice a little. You don't want to shout too much, of course, because you're in the microphone and everything, but you want to raise your voice. And you can change if you're changing characters, you can change your voice a little bit so the character sounds maybe a little more feminine, another character sounds a little more masculine. So mix it up a little bit in the reading, make it fun. I know an author friend, uh, local author here in Nova Scotia, and I love his readings because he makes it a production, and it is absolutely entertaining to watch him tell stories or do readings from his books. So that's what you want to do. You want to entertain when you're doing an author reading. Okay, so the basics of the presentation. So now we can go into questions for about 10, 15 minutes. So, anyone have any questions? I'll just scroll through the chat here. Yeah. Yeah, I've had cancellations like that too. I had one, her son had a bike accident and she had to rush him to the emergency room and kind of cancel at the last minute. So yeah, things like that do happen. Although I'm glad he saved his dog. So okay, so it's not as hard as it looks if you for doing these things because yeah, put the Q&A up there. Because yeah, I mean, in real life I have terrible stage fright. But I have no stage fright when I'm doing these videos, and I don't know why. But it's not as hard as it looks, and it's really fun, actually, when you get started. Yeah. Yeah, I think YouTube needs to work on its streaming services. Yeah, I have seen a few people use Restream too, and they've had issues with that as well. But yeah, I mean, whatever works for you is really the platform to use. I mean, I like StreamYard because I've never had issues with it. And I mean, there's been a few tech issues, but that happens with every platform. But it's so easy to use. I mean, it's just like give them the link, they pop in from the browser. There's no apps, no nothing. It's just simple as pie. Yeah, I mean, yeah, if it's helping an outline a script, and you can ask another thing that I didn't mention, but if you can ask the host, if you're a guest, if they will send you the questions, because I mean, some hosts will. I mean, I will if a guest asks. I don't usually do it because I ask the same questions over and over again, mostly. So you can just go check the episodes out to see what I do. But if a guest wants the questions that they can prepare beforehand, I will give them the questions. So I mean, some shows do a kind of an off the cuff conversation style, so they're not going to have questions. But yeah, and yeah, writing out a script. I write out outlines when I do my recorded stuff. I generally don't do it too much with the live, but on this one I did, as you can see, 4 pages of notes. Yeah, if you want to practice and that's another thing. If you some people just ask a friend or someone who does some author who does this to do a practice session with you. Because I mean, that's the easiest way to do it. Like sometimes when I've done a couple of panels, I've had a few people nervous and I've offered to do practice sessions with them, especially if they're unfamiliar with the software, like they're unfamiliar with StreamYard. I did a practice session. I think it was for last year's steampunk panel for the AWC here. I did a practice session with one of the panelists and it put her right at ease. So yeah, practice sessions can be very helpful. Yeah, that's another option that you can use is to have to do a partner podcast, to have another co-host with you. The spilling ink one that I mentioned earlier, that's actually done by two hosts. So a co-host can help, and it especially will ease the nerves, and it also kind of takes some of the burden off you too, because the other host you can switch back questions, and you can have a little break while the other host is questioning the guest. Yeah, that's a good point. Mixing live and recorded content, long and short, is important to the YouTube algorithm. Yes, and I'm having lots of fun with shorts. I took Brian Cohen's advice doing the mini trailers for the shorts, the from the earlier AWC presentation, and I put my first little mini trailer up last night. And I got a couple more that I'm going to put up, but I'm saving one for a sale and one for a launch. So yeah, I love doing shorts. Yeah, well, that's fun. Yeah, because that's true too. Because you never know when the opportunities will present to host something. If an opportunity like that presents, jump on it. I'm just saying. Okay, there's our question. Okay, so I don't publish audio podcasts myself, but there are Apple, I believe, is the best, and I think you can do it to Spotify as well. And there are a couple other ones, like you just Google audio podcasts to publish. I'm pretty sure Apple and Spotify are the biggest two, though. Anyway, as far as doing video shows, uh, YouTube, of course, and there's Twitch and Facebook. You can broadcast to Facebook. I'm not personally fond of Facebook anymore simply because of their new event thing that they do with live broadcasts. But if that doesn't bother you, Facebook will get you views. YouTube will get you views. How many views depends on the content, really, and you know, and rolling the dice with the algorithms. Yeah, I recommend doing video over audio podcasts, but honestly, it depends on the podcast, really. I mean, some audio podcasts they actually go out. Some video podcasts actually do both. So you can do the video podcast and they will take out the audio and do an audio podcast as well. So those are the ones that are the best because you get the best of both worlds with those. As I know, my author friend Joshua Pantaleresco, he does that, and Spilling Ink also does their shows as audio podcast as well. So, but really, it depends on your preference. I mean, I'm not overly fond of audio podcasts because, frankly, audio podcasts make me a lot more nervous as a guest than the video ones do. Again, I don't know why, but that's just my brain, how my brain works. Um, yeah, like I just mentioned, yes, you can take the audio. If you're doing StreamYard, this is why I like StreamYard. I'm not sure if this is in the free version, maybe not, because I have the paid version. But if you're doing StreamYard, you can download the video, but you can download the audio separately from StreamYard. So yeah, you can upload that to an audio podcast if you want. And there is some audio. I think it's called Anchor, if I'm not mistaken that will convert audio into a podcast as well. So yeah, there's lots of options for taking a video and doing it for an audio podcast, and you can do it. Okay, I do not edit much of my videos, and I've talked about this. I do not like editing, but I think it's called DaVinci Resolve. That's the one that seems to be the best editing software that I've seen other people use, and it is free. There is a free version you can use. Now, when I do editing, I just use Microsoft's Clipchamp. It's down and dirty. It works for what I need, and I can add music. I can add special effects. I can add little graphic things to it. If you've seen any of my little shorts with those little graphics, that's how I've added them. And I also use the special effects from Microsoft Photos, so you can get by with basic editing software if you have to. But DaVinci Resolve, I think it's DaVinci Resolve is what the name is. That seems to be the best editing software, but it's going to be a learning curve, like with all editing software. There are a lot of free editing softwares out there, but they all have learning curves to them. But yeah, just again, Google editing software comparisons, and you'll find lots and lots of articles. Okay, yeah. Twitch has changed its rules on multi-streaming, so you might want to look into that before you multi-stream. I'm not sure um, who it affects and what kind of things it affects, so you better check out the new Twitch rules before you decide to multi-stream on Twitch. So just my advice. I really don't like Twitch. Sorry. Yeah, I don't have a link to this Billing Inc. one, but just Google, just search YouTube for Spilling Ink and it will pop up. It's got kind of this little blotchy thing, and it's run by the author Katie Salidas and the author Jane J.E. Taylor. So yeah, I'll go back afterwards and put them in the descriptions. Yeah, if you are nervous about being on camera, yes, audio podcasts are definitely the way to go. But you don't necessarily have to be on camera even doing video ones, because my upcoming historical panel in July with our lovely Margaret Bernard is one of the guests, is one of the panelists did not want to appear on camera, so she will not be Olivia Atwater. Privacy issues for her, and I understand completely. So, but I'm not passing up the chance to have Olivia Atwater, one of my favorite authors, on a history panel. So, I'll take her any way she wants to come. Okay. So the audio video is only for the paid StreamYard. Okay. Yeah, Twitch is getting very persnickety with its rules and its the way it operates. Yeah, a lot of gaming streamers have actually left Twitch in the last few weeks over the new rule changes. So Twitch is in trouble. Okay, yes, and don't forget to fill out the feedback form. And there's also the playlist. Although I think the after parties and tomorrow's shows, don't forget those. And don't forget to check out the merch from the AWC as and the schedule for Sunday as well. So, oh, and there's the nice Spilling Ink show. Yes, kindly offered to the by someone else who is more on the ball than I am. So, yeah, I'm the same way. I don't like the Twitch platform, but I do support my friends. One of my author friends runs writing sprints over there, I don't get the ads anymore for hers because I recently joined Prime, so I just chuck my Prime membership to her because those ads were driving me nuts. I mean, really, in the middle of a writing sprint, I'm in the middle of a nice writing flow, and then all of a sudden, I hear ads screaming at me. I don't know what Twitch is up to, but yeah, don't like Twitch at all. Okay, so that seems to be the end of the questions. If anyone else has any more questions, or we'll just wrap it up. Okay, so we'll wrap it up then. Well, I'd like to thank everybody. I'd like to thank everybody for joining the coming to the presentation. I hope it was helpful, and be sure to check out everybody tomorrow and go to the happy hour, which is coming up 10 minutes, I think. And be sure to check out all the shows tomorrow because there's a few good ones. I think the one on branding is tomorrow, if my memory serves, which may not. But and I'll be on the closing session tomorrow too. So I'll see you all then. And bye for now. Have a good rest of the conference, everybody.